All right, we're nearly there now. We've got a scoring system. I'm actually doing really well on this game here. And we've got our pipes displaying as we want them, going on forever and ever. And we've also got the bird moving and the collision detection working as well. So all we need is for the game to actually respond when the user hits one of the pipes, or indeed the bottom of the screen there, and for the game to be over and for the user to be able to tap the screen and start again. So first off, I'm going to quickly download a game over graphic. So I'm just on Google Images, and if I scroll down here, there we go. That'll work brilliantly. So we'll go for that one. Obviously, when you're creating your own games, you need to create your own graphics, but this will do for us for now. I'll just call this game over. And here it is in preview. I'm just going to do a resize. So it's currently 2000 pixels. That's plenty. 500 should be more than enough. And I'm also going to give it a transparent background, which is really easy to do on a Mac. You just, in preview, click the instant alpha magic wand there, and then just select the part that you want to be clear, and then I'm just going to press delete to get rid of that and convert it to PNG, because JPEGs are not transparent. And I'm also just going to make it a little bit smaller just by cropping that there as well. Okay, so if you want to avoid those steps, then you can just download the project from the link in the next lecture, and it will have the game over image in it. But we're now going to add this to our app. So let's go back over to Android Studio and open up the assets folder in Finder. And then I'm going to take my game over .png file and just drag it into the assets folder there. Okay, so let's create a new texture for that. Create it up here. Texture game over. And then we'll set it up here. Game over is a new texture using gameover.png. All right, so let's just remind ourselves how we want this to work. We want, when we get a collision detected, we want the game to stop and for the gameover.png texture to be displayed on the screen. We also want the option for the user to then tap on the screen and start the game again. So let's make that happen. So the way I'm going to make that happen is by bringing in a new game state. So far we've got two game states, 0, which is the very beginning, and 1, which is playing the game. So we're now going to have a game state of 2. So that means that the game is over. And we want to do that here as well. So I'm now going to remove the ability to move the bird after it's got to the bottom. And we're just going to have an else statement here to say that if the bird is not above the bottom of the screen, then game state is 2. So what do we want to happen when game state is 2? Well, we want all of this to stop happening, which it actually will, which is great. So this is now only going to happen when game state is equal to 1. So we're going to have all of that first. we'll add this if game state is equal to 0. Oops, let's put the brackets in the right place. And our final option is if game state is equal to 2. We don't really need an if there because it's the only other option, but it makes it clearer what's going on, I think. So just by the virtue of game state not being 1, all of this stuff is not going to happen. So the tubes are going to stop moving, which is great. We'll still have the background, which is good. And we'll still have the bird, which is also good, but we won't have the tubes moving. So that's great. The only thing we actually want is our game over message. So let's draw that. So batch.draw, and we want game over. And we want it in the center of the screen. So X is going to be gdx.graphics.getWidth over 2 minus gameover.getWidth over 2, and then the same for the y coordinate. Well, almost the same anyway, just with getHeight. Okay, so we'll just run that and check. We should now have a proper game over system that will do everything except restart the game. So when the game stops, the tubes will stop moving, the score will stop increasing, but the bird will keep flapping, which is fine. And then we're just going to need to add the facility to tap to restart the game. Here we go, so let's die. Fantastic. There we go. Game over, possibly a little bit small, but I'll leave you to play with that and resize it if you want to. Notice that we can't interact with the screen at all at the moment. That's absolutely fine. All we need to do is to copy this code down, and now we're going to have some interaction. So what do we want to happen? Well, we definitely want the game state to be equal to 1 to start playing the game again. We want to put the bird back in the middle of the screen. So we want to do a fair bit of the setup that we did over in the create method up here. So we want to set bird Y back again. We don't need to reset the textures or the fonts or anything like that, so they can all remain as they were. We do want to set up the tubes again, but we don't need to do any of this setup again because they're all fixed anyway. So this code is what needs to happen twice. So let's put it in a separate method. I'll call it start game. There we go. And then we'll call it here. And also add start game into there as well. And I think there's a couple of other things that we need to change here. We need to set the score back to 0. And we also need to set the scoring tube back to 0 so that we're checking for the first one again. I'll have a quick look at the other variables and see if any of these... Oh, setting the velocity back to 0 would be a good idea as well. Otherwise, they might start falling down rather quickly. The score and scoring tube we've done. Game state we're setting. Gravity's not changing anyway. And these ones here, all the tubes we're going to reset. Great. So with any luck now, we should find that we get the game over screen, and then when we tap the game over screen, we're back to the beginning of the game again, and everything has been reset. Let's give it a go. Okay, let's check it out. So I'll just die down there first. Yep, that looks fine. And then restart. Okay, wonderful. And let's see if I can actually get myself a point There we go. So we've got our 1 point, and then it goes back to 0 again when we restart. Wonderful. So there's definitely a few improvements that can be made. We've got the game over screen. You might want to make the game over image a little bigger. As I said, you might want to bring the score to the fore. You might want to give them a high score, and you might want to stop the bird sort of floating slightly strangely as it does there and make it fall to the ground regardless of where the bird was when it died. But I'll leave all of those as minor tweaks that you can make to make the best Flappy Bird game that you could imagine. But I hope you've enjoyed the process, and I hope you're now having some ideas about games that you could make using these ideas. One of the great things about making games for phones is that they don't need to be big and complicated. Just small little apps like Flappy Bird can be hugely popular. So I hope you have some great ideas and use the skills that you've learned in the last few lectures to put them into practice. Best of luck.